Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Spirit and Soul podcast. I am your host, Tiffany Cohen, and today we are talking about fear. This is something that we talk a lot about, and we talk a lot about fears and limiting beliefs and things holding us back, but I want to really take a deep dive into fear itself because fear can be really crippling. Or it can be a really powerful tool for you to get to know yourself. And it can be a powerful tool for you to push forward and show you strength, show you really just how strong you are. And I think a lot of times fear gets a bad rap for being something that can be almost like really disempowering you, and we allow it. And that's what I really want you to understand is that we allow fear to disempower us when maybe fear is actually meant to show us other things about ourselves. So let's get into this. This is something that came through actually in a very powerful download for me. And lately I have been getting I get a lot of downloads all throughout the day, and I'm learning how to manage them because sometimes I don't know if I can't always just sit down and start typing away, but I've been keeping notes and putting things in my phone now of these different downloads that came through. And this is one that was really powerful and something that really stuck with me. So I'm going to read it to you. It says, "What if the fears we feel about life are not actually fears of an unknown future, but fears of a past we may not remember in our minds, but our soul and body hold the blueprint?" So let's break down this download a little bit. And there's more, and we're going to get to that, but let's break down this one part because I think it's so important. If you believe in past lives, then and you're on this podcast, I'm going to assume you probably do, but if you don't, then this may not resonate with you, and that's okay. All right. But I do believe in past lives, and I do believe that our souls hold blueprints to all of our different lifetimes that we've had. And sometimes our fears are not rational. Like, we've never been abandoned in our lives, but we have a fear of being abandoned now, and we don't know why it's such a fear of ours. And it could be because in a past life you were abandoned in some way, and now you're carrying that energetic blueprint with you because you are not you haven't really done the healing work, and in that past life you didn't heal from it. So now you're carrying that forward as something that needs to be healed in this lifetime. So when we talk about fear, and especially when we talk about anxiety, right? Anxiety is a buzzword. A lot of people have anxiety attacks. They have, are learning to live with anxiety. And I think if we try to start to pull apart where maybe some of these fears come from, because they say with anxiety, what it is it's fear of the unknown. It's fear of an unknown future. So we live in this future that we create this story in our mind of what life is going to look like or what's going to happen, right? And the fact is that what if it's not a fear of the future? What if that fear of the future is a projection from the past? What if what if that fear that you are feeling of that future is something that maybe did happen to you in a past lifetime? And maybe then it's not so far-fetched, right? And maybe that's usually those fears in this lifetime don't ever come to fruition unless you honestly manifested it to come to fruition. Or what if then it happens and it's not as bad as you thought? Or what if it's an incredible learning experience for you, right? So our fears, and when we can start to look at them and say, where is this coming from, right? Like really taking a moment. And I think that's what we don't do. It's what a lot of people don't do. We have to really start treating our fears as a map to something within us that needs to be healed and that needs to be released, because how you hold your fear in your body and in your energetic field is going to shape the course of your life. And it's truly how you respond to fear that's also going to put a cap on what is possible for you. So if we can remember that we are limitless beings, right? We are limitless beings, then we know we don't have a cap. So what's happening is that in this lifetime, these fears, these, we say doubts, limiting beliefs, but we're talking about fears today. So these fears are putting a cap on what is possible. And some of them we don't even know where they're coming from. And we have never stopped to really ask the question, or maybe you have, but didn't dive deep enough into where it's coming from. And this is why I really, really love doing past life work, and especially how this download came through for me. It's saying that a lot of the fears that we have is just a blueprint within our body of something not healed from a distant past. And if you have the key, if you're holding the key to the healing, maybe you don't always need to feel this fear. Maybe the fear can actually be a catapult to push you into something that is outside of your comfort zone. And maybe on the other side of fear is your biggest and best life, and you will never know it because you're never willing to take the chance. So I think it's important for us as human beings to dive into and be really intentional about when fear arises within us and what we do with it. So I want you to take a moment and think about maybe the last time you had anxiety or you had fear around something. And I want you to, or maybe you're feeling it now. Maybe just this conversation that I'm having with you is bringing up a fear that hasn't really been worked through. And if so, I want you to hang on to it for a second. I don't want you to push it aside. It's coming up for a reason. So how are you holding that fear in your body? What's happening to your body? Is it obviously, right? It causes a physical reaction, right? Maybe your heart beats faster. And this is what your body's meant to do because it is designed to survive. Your body is designed to survive. So in times where, in ancient times where we really needed to survive and we were being hunted by animals and things like that, we needed our body to respond to fear because it sends our organs and blood into different places and it reacts in a certain way on purpose to save you. So your breath is going to become shallow. You're going to start breathing from the top part of your lungs instead of breathing down into the lower part of your lungs, signaling relaxation, signaling digestion. Right? So we start breathing in this upper part. Our adrenaline starts pumping. Our eyes begin to focus. So we're focusing in, right? So we're hyper-focused. We become hyper-focused on whatever it is that's bringing us fear. And this is what's sending you into the physical response and that anxious response. It's because your body's meant to do that, right? So taking a nice big deep breath right now. I don't want you to hang on to the physical body response, but I want you to hang on to where this fear is coming from. Where is it bubbling up from? Where is it in your body that it's being held? And really start to focus in on that. And then when you can focus in on it, maybe you have to come back to this. Maybe you can even use this as a little meditation later. But then what I want you to do is I want you to ask the fear when you're focused in on it. Maybe it's in your belly. Maybe it's in your heart. Maybe it's in your throat. I want you to focus in on that fear and ask it, where does it come from? And speak to it as if it's its own entity. Where are you coming from, fear? What are you trying to tell me? Have a conversation and let the thoughts act as droplets dropping into your mind. Where is it coming from? You can even say, are you coming from this lifetime? No. Are you coming from a past life? Yes. Right? Trust what you're receiving. And ask how you can release it in this life. You could even say, I don't want to carry you around with me anymore. I'm not meant to carry you around with me. And start having the conversation as if fear is not actually a part of you, but is a separate entity from you. And it's just taking up space in your body and in your mind and in your energetic field. So once you can really start to work through this and start to understand it a little bit more, how you respond to it will be different. So instead of having a reaction like, oh my goodness, what's going on? I don't want to do this. This is scary, right? And you start going down this spiral. Instead of going down the spiral, what if you didn't react to the fear anymore? Because a reaction is giving your power away. So immediately when you start having a reaction to it and you start spiraling, you are giving your power over to that entity that's just living in your body. It actually doesn't belong there. So you're giving over this power and you're saying, okay, I'm giving you all my power, fear. I know you have the power, so I'm just going to give it all to you. But in reality, fear is like, I don't want this either. I don't want your power. I'm just here because you haven't really healed me yet. And only you can let me go. So actually, you have the power. So sit with that for a minute. We think that fear is the all encompassing energetic that takes over your body, that takes over everything within you, and that it has all the power. But in reality, you are the one that's hanging on to fear. You're the one that's holding on to it, that's giving it all of your power. So now it's time to really start to take your power back. And instead of reacting when fear arises, I want you to respond to it. And the response is you in the seat of power, asking it questions, asking it where it came from, why it's here. What are you trying to teach me? Maybe grabbing a journal as you're doing this and writing it down and allowing everything to be expressed through you. But asking it the questions helps you to understand it so that you can respond instead of react. And this is the most powerful place that you can really be in. And if we really start to think about it, and we really start to look at fear as maybe the fear does come from this lifetime, but if it's not coming from this lifetime, what if and this is the other part of what came through for me, and I'll read it to you now. It says, what if we came back in this life to heal some of the wounds, not of our weakest lives, but of our strongest? What if in our strongest lives we died traumatically and now are able to live, to freely heal and be who we were then, but more powerful? I'm going to read that again. What if we came back in this life to heal some of the wounds, not of our weakest lives, but of our strongest lives? What if in our strongest lives we died traumatically and are now able to freely heal and be who we were then, but more powerful? Like, my mind was blown as I was receiving this and feeling into it. Let's break this down now. So a lot of times when we go back into past lives, I think what we see is a lifetime, and we see the negative parts of it, or we see the traumatic parts of it, and we look at that life as like, oh, this was really sad in this lifetime and this happened. But reality, life is life. Okay. And life will continue to life on you in this one as well. And there are things that we go through that are traumatic and that are really, really hard. But would you say that this life for you is not strong? Maybe it's not yet because you're not allowing it to be. But this, I would say, is probably one of my strongest lifetimes. And that doesn't mean that I go through life without seeing things that come up for me, without going through something that's traumatic. But it's always about what I do with it. Have I healed it? Have I worked through it? Rather than letting it define me, I put myself back in that seat of power, right? It doesn't mean that I feel it any less. It just means that I don't let it define me. So I want you to start doing that for yourself, right? And understanding that in our past lives, if we lived a really strong life, like maybe you were a warrior, and in that warrior, maybe you were the general of an army, maybe you were, I don't know, the strongest witch in the coven, maybe you were the most incredible healer all around, but maybe you were persecuted for being a witch. Maybe you died on the battlefield saving. Maybe you died traumatically on the battlefield, brutally, but you saved an entire village. So is that a weak life because you died traumatically and have carried that forward? Or is it one of your strongest lives that you just need to heal the death? So I think that it's important to really go back into past lives, especially when we don't understand where our fears are coming from in this life, or if they are being perpetuated in this lifetime, really beginning to understand them. And now that we have, especially if it's like a witch wound or something like that, we have the ability to live a lot more freely when it comes to our beliefs and how we practice magic and how we go about manifesting. And it is freely spoken about. Whether people believe it or not is another story, but it doesn't really matter. As long as you believe it, as long as you understand your own magic, that's all that matters. But you have the ability to heal those past traumatizing experiences and really allow your fears to dissipate so that you can then live your strongest life now. You can live for that life and this one. You can carry through the strongest parts of that life into this one by clearing out the fear. So understanding where your fear is coming from is the most important thing that you can do, and understand it on a level that you can heal it. You can heal, and I am a strong believer that you can heal any fear, that you can heal any anxiety, as long as you start to understand where it comes from and then don't give your power away to it. And this is coming from somebody that I have had anxiety attacks. I have lived with that in the past. I healed from it, but I have lived with that as well. And I know what it feels like to go in that. And sometimes I'll wake up anxious. Sometimes I have those feelings too. But where we may differ, and I hope that maybe you can grow into this place with me, is that I never give my power over to it anymore. So for example, when I was leaving my corporate job, I was feeling a lot of fear. I was told in the past that you can't make money doing what you love. And I knew that I was leaving a cushy job and a cushy salary and going into a place of unknown. And I was taking that leap, and it felt really scary, even though I had support behind me, even though I had everyone behind me rooting for me. I felt a lot of fear, and especially as the countdown began to my last day. I kept, what I was doing actually was not what I should have been doing. And I was trying to bury down the fear. I was trying to affirmation my way through the fear. But what I was not doing was giving my fear a voice. And because I was just trying to squash it, squash, affirmation, I am a money magnet, right? And listen to me, I love affirmations and I use them all day, all throughout the day, every day. When fear is coming up, an affirmation will never heal the fear. Okay. It'll help you with your mindset around it. Okay. It'll help you with the mindset to work through it, but it's not going to heal the fear itself. And I wasn't allowing my fear to have a voice. And when I actually sat down and let my ego be heard and let the fear be heard, I cried it out. I allowed all the fears out, and then I understood the fear. And the fear, all that it needed was just to be heard. That was it. It wasn't even trying to take me down. It just needed itself to be heard. And once I allowed those words to come through, I had a choice. And the choice in that moment, as I was sitting on my couch, crying my eyes out, and with my journal right there, and allowing those fears to overtake me, I knew in that moment that I had the choice. And the choice was to either allow the fear to continue to do that and maybe take back my notice and stay where I was, or I could go forward anyway because I knew that my soul was leading the way, and I knew this innately, and I also knew that I could not fail. I had the choice of following my soul. And I sat for a moment and I said, no, my soul knows the way, and I know that this is what I'm meant to do. And that's what I did. And here I am now, over a year later, a year and a half later, and it's been the best journey. And I'm so glad that I didn't allow fear to be the one that made the choice that day. And I know for many of you, and I have been there as well, where fear did make the choice for me. And listen, you had to learn. It's a learning experience as well. But if you're in that place now, or if you're getting there in the future, what I want you to do is really sit for a second and ask who's in the driver's seat. Is it you? Or is it fear that's getting to live rent-free within you, right? And the reality is that you should be making the call. You should be in the driver's seat. You should be the empowered one. And if you are not, then my friend, you need right now to switch seats, because it's time for you to get in that driver's seat and make decisions based on a place where fear is not the one that's making the decision, that it may be there and it may need to be heard, but that you continuously push through it and live outside of that comfort zone. The fear lives in the comfort zone. It's going to keep you there. It wants to keep you there. It's cushy. It's cozy there. It's why it's called a comfort zone. It's literally why it's called a comfort zone. Because it's comfortable. And you don't want to get up. Think about like when you're in bed and you're like, I don't want to get up. I don't want to get up. No, you got to get up. Your alarm went off 4 times and you're hitting snooze. Let's go, sister. Time to get up. All right? Time to get out of that comfort zone. Time to move forward. Time to take the reins of your life back so that you can live your biggest and best life. That is what we are meant for, whatever that looks like for you. And I hope that your biggest and best life is something that you think about every day. It's something I think about every day. And listen, I am living my best life, but my best life is, there's still more, and there's still more on top of that, and there's still more on top of that. And I continue to grow, and I continue to get better and live into that highest and best version of myself. But I cannot do that, and you cannot do that if you are letting fear lead the way. If you're letting your anxieties lead the way, if you're defining yourself as an anxious person, I want you to stop right there, because you have already given every single one of your powers away to your anxiety and your fear. Okay, I'm anxious, and then you're saying, here you go. I'm going to give you the keys to my life, anxiety. I'm going to let you decide what we do. No, anxiety can, sit in the back seat. Okay, let it be heard sometimes, but it's not driving the bus. It's not driving the car. Okay, it's time now. It's time to start taking it back. It's time to start living into who you are meant to be, because I'm telling you right now that if something in your life doesn't feel good for you, then you really need to, that you're not living into that highest and best version of you. Maybe you're on the journey to it, and if you are, I am applauding you. But if you're not really doing anything to change your life, if you're really taking the tiniest baby steps, and you're still letting fear in, and you're still letting fear lead the way, then I'm telling you now, you're not living into your best life. Okay, so I hope that this episode is a nice little violent shove into a life that feels really good for you. I hope it's a violent shove out of your comfort zone. And I hope that you begin to take the steps to understand your fears, to find where they're coming from, to do the past life work, to really get to know these fears so that you can heal them on whatever level that they need to be healed, and that you can respond to them if and when they come back up again. You're responding instead of reacting to them. That is my hope for you, because this fear is shaping the course of your life, whether you want to see it that way or not. It is. It's changing the course of your life. It's shaping it, and it's putting a cap on what is possible for you. And I know that big, big, big things are possible for you. And even if that big, big, big thing is just being really, really, really happy, really joyful, it doesn't have to be a business thing. It doesn't have to be this gigantic thing. It can just be, I want to be the happiest version of me in whatever that looks like, and I want to feel free. And I can tell you something right now. If your goal is to feel free, and you consistently let fear in and let it lead, you will never, never feel free. Okay? And if you're like me, feeling free is my utmost value. So I hope this gave you a little kick in the pants. I hope that you get to know your fears, and I will see you on the next episode of the Spirit and Soul podcast. Thank you so much.